What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about creating custom minimal overlays. We're going to use things like stream elements, OBS plugins, some browser sources, and all together make an OBS layout that looks really nice. So wherever you stream to, it could be YouTube, Twitch, Bookface, I think Periscope. Is MySpace still around? Your OBS layout is going to be clean, minimal, but look very nice. Let's go. Welcome back, my friend. I'm really excited to dive into this video. If you haven't seen my previous video, I will encourage you to go check it out. The link is going to be in the description below. In that video, there's a section where we talk about how to create a scene from scratch. If you've never created a scene, if you've never set up OBS, go check that video out. Go to that timeline, follow the instructions. If you've created a scene and you just want to build off of that scene and try to minimize it, clean it up a little bit, then let's move on forward. All right, here we are in OBS, and this is our gaming layout. We talked about this in the previous video, how to build scenes upon scenes. And all this is just, for me, it's my Elgato capture card. This is capturing either your window, your desktop, or a game capture, just something that's going to display, and then a web camera. That is the basic fundamental on building off of creating a scene. A couple things I want to point out here: disregard all this extra stuff, because this is just things that I've used to create my green screen, like this frame, and then I also have the source in the back as well. But all you have to worry about is the layout that we're using, which has our display and our webcam inside of it. Second thing I want to point out is a slight tip where you see I have these categories. The way I create these is just creating blank scenes with no sources inside of them. So you click this plus sign, and then I'll just do a few dashes, space, and then new scene, or whatever you want to call it, space, and then some more dashes, and then hit OK, and that's going to be created at the very bottom of your scenes list. And with the up and down arrow, you can position that wherever you would like. And then as you bring in sources that pertain to this scene, you would bring them up to fall underneath there. Back in our gaming layout, one thing we're going to need is a frame going around our web camera. In the description below, I'm going to share a link on how you can create a free animated webcam border. Okay, so here we are, the animated gradient border generator. This is a free website. Here is pretty straightforward. Going from top to bottom, you can make a rectangle camera frame, or you can make a circle camera frame. You can change the width and the height of it, the border, how thick do you want this to be, and then the radius has to do with the corners. Do you want them to be very rounded, or do you want them to be very pointy? You have a couple of options here. You can do a two-tone. You can automatically fade to white, or you could do a fade to black tone, or you could just do a rainbow. We're just gonna go with the two-tone, and with the hue and the offset hue, those are the two color tones that we're gonna use. So if we just kind of drag this and find a color scheme that we like, there we go, we can kind of use something like that. How bright do you want it to be? You can adjust that there. And then the duration, if you want this to be very slow moving, you drag it to the right. If you want it to be very fast, then you drag it to the left. There you go. So we're gonna make this pretty slow. And then the last step you have to do is just click get new URL. It's going to generate this link here and copy it, and we're going to import this as a browser source in OBS. Okay, so here we are back in OBS. We're going to add this browser source. Click the plus sign, and then we're just going to do webcam frame, and then under the source, I'm going to click the plus sign and go to browser, webcam frame source, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so now here under the URL is where we want to paste the URL that it generated. Okay, and for the width and the height, let's go back and reference where we had ours. Here you can see for the width we had 500 For the height, we had 650. Let's see if that fits our webcam pretty good. For the width, we had 500. I'm gonna do a little bit extra. I'm gonna do 550. And for the height, we had 650. So I'm gonna do a little extra. I'm gonna do 700. Oops, 700. Let's see where that starts us off at. Okay, so there we go. We have it there. I'm just gonna expand this to fit there, and then if I right click and I go to transform and I center it horizontally, now that's centered there. Let's go back to our gaming layout. Now we're gonna add this to our gaming layout and position it over our webcam. Hit the plus sign. Now remember, we created a scene for all this. We're not adding the actual browser source again into here, and the purpose why we do this is so that we have full control over every element, and it's not subject to just one scene or manipulated over and over again, and it could possibly get tweaked and messed up. So we click the scene, scroll down to webcam frame, and there it is. Now I'm just going to position this, shrink it a little bit, just line it up. Okay, so I have to do a little bit of manipulation, not much. So I'm going to hold down shift just so I can kind of shrink a few things here. There we go, right there. And then with my up arrow, I'm gonna do some micro movements. This is all how to create it from scratch, so you're seeing all of the little ins and outs. There we go. So now we have our webcam frame around our webcam. You see there's an animation going around it. Looks clean so far. So there are some things that OBS Studios has the ability to do that Streamlabs OBS can't. For instance, plugins. And we're going to be using some plugins in today's video. So if you do use Streamlabs OBS, you can still take away some things from this video, except for when I start diving into some plugins that we're about to use. Before we move forward, make sure that OBS is closed before we add the plugins we're about to install. Here is a plugin for OBS that is going to be really important for doing some creative elements, adding a few more features to your sources. It's called Stream Effects, and I'm going to leave a link in the description below so that you all can download this. Right here on the right, we gotta go to Download tab. It's gonna take you to this page. Just scroll down, and we're looking for the Windows version, the zip file. You want the zip file, not the ext. Once that's downloaded, we want to unzip it, so double click it and then click extract all. You can save this wherever you want. I'm just going to leave it for now right in my downloads folder. Okay, so now if we go back to our downloads, we see we have the zip folder and then the unzipped folder. So in the unzipped folder, we want to double click, open it up, and starting with this folder right here, OBS plugins, double click that, double click 64-bit. We want to highlight these two, and then we want to copy them. Now you can open this up in another window, right click on your C drive, open a new window. Wherever you have the OBS folder saved at, typically it's your C drive, programs file, x86, but you may have had an external hard drive and you created a program files folder there. For me, it's in my local disk C, program files x86, so I'm gonna click there. And then here it is, OBS Studios. And we're gonna go to OBS plugins, double click there, 64. And then we're going to paste the files that we copied. So right click in an open spot, click paste. You may have to do this. You'll need to provide administrative permissions. I'm just gonna click do this for all. current items, and continue. Then let it copy, and there it is right there. Okay, the next thing we have to do, we have to go back to the unzipped folder, and now we want to go to the data. Double click on OBS plugins, and then this stream effects folder, we want to copy this now. Let's navigate back to our C drive OBS folder, and I'm going to back click until I get to data, and then OBS plugins, and then right click on an open spot and paste. And there is the stream effects folder there. Those are the two things you need to add to your OBS folder in your C drive or wherever you saved it. All right, let's head back to OBS. So now when you start up OBS Studios, you should see a tab that says Stream Effects. This is how you're going to be able to access the plugins that Stream Effects offers. So in our gaming layout, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create another scene, and it's going to be a mirrored scene. The reason why we want a mirrored scene is because we want to be able to manipulate a source that won't be affected in other scenes. So mirrored scenes isolate a specific source, and you can do whatever you want with that one, and it will never affect another scene if you were to transition to it. So how we do that is I'm going to click the plus sign, and I'm going to name this Game Mirror. Click OK. So now we have this Game Mirror scene, and inside there I'm going to click this plus sign. So here's why Stream Effects was so important. Now you have some other options in your sources. One of them is a source mirror. So I'm going to click source mirror, and this is going to be Game Mirror. I can't do the same name. Game Mirror Source. There we go. So now under the source, I'm going to choose the down arrow, and I'm going to choose my display capture. For me, that's my Elgato. That's my Elgato scene. For you, it might say display capture or game capture, whichever one you have in place. Click OK. Let's go ahead and lock that in place. Now heading back to our gaming layout, I want to add that mirrored source of my game capture. So in gaming layout, under the sources, I'm going to hit the plus sign, and I'm going to add a scene now because we made that a scene. So I'm going to scroll down till I see Game Mirror. Click OK. So now we have two versions of our display capture, the Game Mirror and the Elgato. You could either drag it down or you can use the down arrow. I'm going to bring that below my original display capture, which is my Elgato. So what can we do with this? Well, first off, I'm going to pull up a game so that we can actually see how this all looks. I'm going to pull up Rocket League. By the way, I stream on Twitch Sunday nights and Thursday nights. The link is going to be in the description below. I would love if you come, stop by, hang out with your boy. Ask me some questions. Ask about streaming setup, about OBS, about plugins, how I condition and blow dry my beard. But I love having these conversations with people in my chat. So come on by. I would love to have a conversation with you. All right, here we are, pulled up Rocket League. So in my Elgato, which is my game display, that's showing, and then in my mirror, it's also showing. If I hide, if you click this little eye icon, that hides one of the sources. So if I hide it, you see I still have Rocket League. That's because my mirrored image is showing the exact same thing. If I was to hide this one, now I have nothing. Okay, so now we want to work with the mirrored source. What are some things we can do? Well, Stream Effects allows us to do a few things. I'm going to select the game mirror, and then I'm going to hit filters. The first filter I want to add is a color correction. What I want to do with this color correction is I want to make this image a little bit darker than the original image. So I'm just going to bring the brightness down, and then the contrast a little bit as well. There we go, right there. Let's see what that looks like. The second thing I'm gonna do is click the plus sign again, and you should see this blur effect. Stream Effects now adds this blur effect to your filters, and you can choose which one you like. I really like the dual filtering, and then what I like to do is I like to drop this down to about 3, and then I'll close it, and that's what it will look like. So now if I bring back the original display, I can unlock it. So now I can move it. I'm gonna select it so I can get the red box around it, and let's just see what it looks like if we were to shrink this. And now you can have a blurred version of your game here. That's one layout that you can try. Here you can see some of the gameplay, what that would look like. So now that we have our game display with a nice blurred background, we're gonna head on over to Stream Elements so that we can incorporate some widgets for alerts, notifications, and then see what else we might be able to add on top of this build. All right, so when you log on to Stream Elements, whether for the first time or not, you're going to come here to the dashboard. This is a second account that I have. I use it as a bot on in my chat from my Twitch stream. So right here all the way on the left, you're just gonna click this hamburger menu, navigate all the way down to my overlays, and on this account I don't have any, so this is perfect. Just create a new overlay, and I am outsourcing at 1080p, so I'm gonna keep this at 1080p. Whatever resolution you're streaming out to, make sure that is the same number as well. And I'm gonna click start. And then I'm going to add a widget right here on the left. I'm going to add a widget. Let's start with alerts. So I'm going to hover over to alerts and click this first tab that says alert box. Now what I personally like to do is I like to separate my subscriber alert from my follow alerts and everything. So I'm going to uncheck this, and I would do the exact same thing I'm going to do now, but for my sub alert. So I will either duplicate this or create another one, and I would check my sub and uncheck everything else. The reason why I do this is if there's ever an event where there's a hype train and I had multiple gifted subs and multiple follows all at the same time, I don't want them to kind of wait in line for the next thing. So at least 2 sources. The most that I receive is subscribers and follows. Those 2 sources can go at the same time. So now that I have the checkbox for the ones that I want, you can see how that would look. I would just emulate a follow event, and that's what it would look like. Here's a nice cool tip that you can do to make sure that your alerts are positioned exactly where you want them on your stream. So on PC, if you were to right click on the Windows icon and search snipping tool, there it is right there. We're going to create a new snip, I guess you would say. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up to where I get my whole screen. And then I'm going to save this wherever you want to save it to. I'm going to save it to my desktop. And I'm going to say game layout. Coming back to Stream Elements, I'm going to navigate down to this blue plus circle, and I'm going to go to static custom, and I'm going to click on image. So we're going to add a static image, which is that snippet that we took earlier. So I'm going to click set image, and you can either upload it or you can just drag it and drop it. and I'm gonna make sure that it is positioned exactly where I want it. Then upload. Okay, so now I have my image uploaded. So if I click on it, I can submit it. So now we see our image here. So now what I'm gonna do is, as I have image 3 selected, I'm going to go to position and style, and I'm gonna make sure that this is 1920 by 1080. There. So if I go back to my layers and I go to my alert box, I want to make sure my alert box is above my image, and let me emulate a follow event. And now let's say I want this to be just above my webcam. There. Now that I know where my alerts are gonna show up, I want to name this, and I'm gonna just say event alert, just for all the different events. I'm gonna save it, and then I want to copy this link right here, and I'm gonna add that as a browser source in OBS. So let's head back over to OBS. I almost forgot one thing. Under the image, you want to make sure that this eye icon, the toggle visibility, is off. You're still going to be able to see the image, just a little transparent, and it's not going to show up on your stream, but you can still see where the alert is going to be. So make sure you toggle that off and save it. And now let's head back to OBS. Here we are back in OBS. So what I want to do is add that browser source to my gaming layout. So I'm going to click the plus sign under the sources, click browser, and I'm just going to say event alert. And I'm going to paste that there. For the width, we're going to do 1920 by 1080. Okay, if we navigate back to my overlays, we can see the event alert now part of our overlays. Again, I would say duplicate this for your subs. So the way you would do that is the 3 dots here, click on that. You're going to click duplicate, and under the list of the type of alerts, you're going to uncheck everything and check the subs. So you're going to have one for your subs, and then you're going to have one for all the other alerts, and then just title that sub alerts. So you have your event alerts, and then you have your sub alerts. I'm not going to do that. I know you are capable of doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another widget here under the hamburger menu here. We're actually going to go to themes gallery this time, and the tabs that we see up here, we're going to go to widgets, and let's scroll down because we're looking for one that says events rotator right here. Events rotator, and we're going to create this, and we want to create a new overlay. Let's name this event rotator. My microphone's in the way. And we want to see theme in my overlays, and here it is, and click this edit so that we can start customizing it the way we want it to look. All right, so here it is. You're gonna see some instructions here, and they're all, you know, toggled off so that they don't show, but you can kind of see some direction. We're just gonna close this down. Actually, here we go. Customize widget. That's strange. Now we can close it down. I don't know why it wouldn't let me do it before, but that's what happens. So what we're looking for is this settings section. So we're going to bring this down, and we're going to scroll down. But for the most part, I just want to kind of match the theme of my channel. So I want to change these colors here, and we had like a purple. Just so we can be consistent, we can copy this, and wherever there's red, we'll paste that, and then wherever there's orange, we'll do that teal blue or so. Let's select that. Okay, so once we change the color, we can scroll down, and here we're gonna see what each slider is doing. So as it's sliding left and as it's sliding right, the information that's coming out, we can see the colors already changed to fit the color scheme of our channel. So now whatever you want the data to show is in the drop down menu. By default, they have the most important ones, I would say, like the latest follower. For slide 3, we have the latest cheer. For slide 4, the latest sub. So all the pertinent information is already in there. So for the most part, all we had to do was just change the coloring. So let's go ahead and save this. We're going to copy this link again and add it as another browser source in OBS. Here we are back in OBS. So again, in our gaming layout, we're going to add this rotator. So we're going to add a browser source, and you can name it event rotator. I'm just gonna name it rotator. And then I'm going to paste that URL. For the width, we're gonna do 1920 by 1080. And there is our new rotator. Obviously we don't want it positioned here, so what we can do is if we hold down Alt, we can crop just the amount that we want. So I'm gonna hold down Alt, grab the top and the bottoms, and I'm going to grab the sides. Just leave a little bit of wiggle room in case there's ever like a long name. There's enough buffer for that. I don't want it in the middle of my gameplay, so let's bring it up here to where the blurred background is, and I'm going to use my up and down arrows just to kind of center it to where I like it. There we go. That looks clean. Let's lock it in. All right, just 2 more widgets that I would like to add. I think they really add value to your stream. We're gonna head back on over to the hamburger menu, and we're gonna go to themed galleries, back to the widgets tab, and let's scroll down until we see social media rotator. Let's create this. I'm gonna create a new overlay, and I'm just gonna name this socials. There we go. Create my widget. See theme in my overlays, and let's scroll. Here we go, right here. So I'm going to edit it just like before. It is pretty cut and dry. You double click on it, you can mess with the settings. Here are the different fields. So for Twitter, you would add your Twitter name. For YouTube, if you have a YouTube channel, you would just change that information. Make sure you save it, copy the link on over. So I'm just going to leave it as this, and I'm going to copy it over and then add it as a browser source. Here we are back in OBS again. Same process. Under the gaming layout, we're just going to add a browser source. This one's going to be socials. Hit OK. Gonna add that link that we copied earlier, and let's go with 1920 by 1080. We're gonna crop it because we know it's not that big, but we want to make sure it's in the shot. Okay, so there it is right there. So we're gonna hold down Alt so that we can crop these right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink it. I'm going to let go of Alt, and I'm just going to grab these square boxes and I'm going to shrink it ever so slightly, and let's put it on this side. And if we want to center it, we can just use our up and down arrows if we want it centered. So there, now we have our, let's lock that in place. Now we have our socials, and we have our rotator, and our alerts that will pop up just above our webcam. One last widget I personally like a lot. I see a lot of streamers who add the chat to their scene, and sometimes it clutters when they add the full window. So I'm going to show you a really cool sideways chat that is very discreet, but you can still see who's chatting. And sometimes when you like to watch VODs, or if anybody watches your VODs, the chat is not in the way and they can still watch your VODs in full screen without having to have the chat open on the side. So I think it's pretty cool. Let's set that up really quick. Okay, finally, here we are back in the My Overlay section. Now, this widget is not available under the themes gallery, but I will have the link in the description for this sideways chat. And the moment you click on it, it automatically gets added to your gallery. So let's begin. Just click edit. And if we open up sideways chat, we have our settings here. You can go through and customize it. You can change the font. Nutty is a streamer where I actually first saw this, and he has his own personal font in there. I think that's pretty cool. But if you go to font family, you can just choose whichever one you want to use. I'm just going to keep it the way it is for now. And if you want to do a test run, test message, you can see right here, a message popped up. So I'm just going to save this, and I'm going to copy the link, because that's all you really need to do. Because Stream Elements is already linked to your Twitch account, it's already set up. There is absolutely nothing else that you have to do other than change any fonts. All right, so here we are back in OBS, and we're going to add this in the gaming layout. We're going to add a browser source, and let's just name this sideways chat. It's hard trying to type with one hand. Okay. Paste the link there, and then for the width we want 1920 by 1080. Hit OK, and now it should be there. So to test it, we need to go back to Stream Elements, do a test message, and there it is right there, nice and lined up, and it looks clean. All right, there you have it. We just created a customized minimal scene layout. You can use this design, or I would love to see how you incorporate different ideas in yours. I've been inspired by a lot of streamers. I hope that this inspired you to not just have the regular game scene and web camera, but think outside the box and have a couple of other creative elements there. Just a reminder, I stream on Twitch. The link is in the description below. Come in, have a conversation with me. I would love to be able to answer questions and just get to know you a lot more. So until then, later. Wow. Why is my head like extra large today? What in the world? Let me think about this. I have a lot on my mind. Yo, that was a good one. Who did that? Soul. That was a good one, buddy.